Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast, episode 402, recorded live and in color, mostly grays, it seems like today, on Wednesday, September 19th, 2018. I'm Todd. He's Shane. I don't know which side of the video he's on, so I can't point at him. Can't do the Brady Bunch thing where but we are here podcasting about all things cloudy, and by all things, we mean Microsoft and specifically the things he and I have touched in the past 7 to 10 days. But other than that, all things cloudy. First, a little bit of housekeeping. You guys will notice the folks of you that are wrapped and hitting F5 on your podcast things, I have not gotten 401 out yet. I have plenty of excuses. I won't bore you all with them. We've only got an hour, but I'm working on that. I will get that done. That's in the can. I've got the stuff. But we will do that one. And the other housekeeping thing is we have to thank our friends at Syskit, the purveyors of fine enterprise monitoring and administrative products. I stole that right off the front page of their website. They make for some of my favorite products, SP.Kit, a perennial favorite for administrators everywhere. I tried not to love it. I couldn't not love it. Then they've added a bunch of more products to their stable. They've got the insights thing and all that. And not only do they provide all these great products for everybody, they also sponsor outstanding free webinars. That is a teaser. That is foreshadowing. And we will talk more about that later. But let's just say the folks at Syskit have done it again. So we will talk more about that later. And in the chat room, Brett Cartwright just pasted a screenshot, and Shane's got his eyes closed. I love it. Reminds me of My Name is Earl, when every time Earl got his picture taken, his eyes were closed. And that's something. So when I do, when I produce the podcast, the screenshot that goes in my blog is always one that I pick. And I always try to pick one where Shane's got a goofy look on his face. The last one, I think 400, I had a funny look on my face, but I always try to pick the least flattering pictures.
Yeah, and I just assume the only way the internet knows me is by really bad pictures. So when I do the title image for my YouTube videos, I always pick the worst picture of me also. I just assume that it's expected at this point, so...
Yeah, exactly. You got to own it, right? Because if you do it, then nobody can make fun of you for having, goofy pictures out there.
Ugly face.
Exactly. You do the best with what you have. I mean, you can't do much more.
It looks like we both needed to shave today too.
I do. It has been 8 to 10 days probably since I shaved.
Now back to your data point, right? That's how often the average man shaves, right? It's every 8 to 10 days.
I've told this story before. My facial hair is so poor that when I was in basic training, they would check us every morning to see if everybody shaved. There were guys in my platoon that would have to shave twice a day, and I'd be like, it's Thursday, I shaved Monday, I'm probably okay for this morning's inspection. Tomorrow, though, I really have to hit it. That's just, nothing's changed in the past 25 years. It's just how it is.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. So you've got, you put the first note in about cord cutting. Think we need to do another one of those?
I think we should. I've gotten another just swoop of questions. People, right? It takes several months, about 9 months usually, for things to catch on. And so we did the show about 9 months ago, and people were like, "Hey, did you really do that cord cutting thing? How are you feeling about that?" And I'm like, "I did. I'm very happy with it." And like, "Well, you think it's safe for me to do it?" I did it 9 months ago. Todd did it 7 years ago. I think you'll be okay. The world's not going to end. You'll be able to watch the Kansas City Chiefs even if you cut the cord.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that in a second. My Chiefs are awesome. Yeah, so the cord cutting thing, I agree. And the other thing about it is that the landscape has changed. So I cut the cord, I don't remember when, 1.5 years, 2 years ago. The landscape has changed tremendously since then, and my own approach to it all has changed. So the things that we talked about even 9 months ago are different, and I've made a couple of changes to my setup since then. So let us know. If you go to toddclint.com/podcast402, you can see the comments thing, or you can leave comments on YouTube. Let us know if this is something you're interested in. It's something as nerds, Shane and I are kind of on the innovator side, the cutting edge side of these kind of topics. So we're experiencing things now before you guys might. So we would love to know if it's something you guys are interested in.
Yeah, and it is a fun little game, because like we settled on PlayStation View as our provider, and their channels keep changing as far as the local channels. So at one point I had all the channels but ABC. Then I had none of the local channels for like 2 weeks. Now I have all of them except for CBS. It's you got to be a little flexible. So
yeah. And a funny thing, so I live in Ames, Iowa, which is where Iowa State University is at, and the football team, their inaugural game was a couple of weeks ago. It was the one where, they pay some really crappy team from a ways away, pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars to come in and lose. Yep. It was that game. It would have been on cable had I had cable, but that's cool. I don't care. It's fine. They have a streaming thing, Cyclones.tv. I'm sure you're all fully aware of Cyclones.tv. Oh, yeah. Everybody's scheduled. Yeah. We don't have a subscription to it. We don't leave it up and going, but you can do a la carte things. So if we're home and we happen to be able to watch a game, we just do that, and it works out pretty well. So this game starts, we come in, we sign up for Cyclones.tv, and I forget what the game costs to watch, $7, $10, something like that. Not huge. We sign up for it, we hop onto the Roku, we start the game, and 4.5, 5 minutes into the game, lightning starts striking, so they pause the game. They wait for 2.5 hours, and then they cancel the game. So I paid more than $1 a minute to watch like 5 minutes of football because
that's dedication.
That's one of the downsides of it. It was, but it was just a funny one. I'm like, that did not quite work out well for us.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have any of the a la carte like that, and all the, we watch a real school. It's called the Big Ten, Ohio State. So it turns out that we don't have any of these shenanigans to watch their games.
Well, so I think the thing with that is Iowa State, they were in these packages before all this other stuff. So there's all the, but yeah, I get your point. Probably easier to see Ohio State games than Iowa State games. But speaking of my Chiefs, so I've been watching them. That there's been a couple of cool things about that. Those so far, the Chiefs are doing well enough this season that they get the game on the local CBS station, so I can get that from the antenna or do whatever, and then. Again, so it's just back to the View and getting combination of stuff. I've always been able to get the local CBS affiliate on View. And last week when the Chiefs were playing the Steelers, we had soccer games all day that day, but I could stream View on my phone. And so I was able to, during downtime, halftime and water breaks and only respectful times, I was able to watch the game and see how the Chiefs are doing. And I was not expecting a good season this year. The Chiefs traded away a bunch of their good players over in the offseason. They've got not a rookie quarterback, but he's never really played NFL. Not doing too bad. Set a record last week for the most number of touchdowns scored by a first-year starter in 2 games.
Yes, I saw, good old Patrick Mahomes, and I mean, I assume that at some point he walked across the water for you. Does he go to the Mississippi, just walk back and forth, just to be like?
Well, that's the funny thing. I don't like the guy. I thought Alex Smith. Alex Smith was a great quarterback. I understand the logistics, the pragmatism of trading him when they traded him. I get that. I don't think Mahomes is up to it, but. He's made it really tough for me not to like him. I was expecting him, and one of my friends used to be he is a college football coach, but he knew some of those people, and he knew the school that Mahomes came from, and knew some stuff. He's like, the kid's not going to make it. He's like, there's some things, and I don't want to get into all the mechanics of it. But I was set not to like the kid, and he's making it really tough. He's really making it tough.
Well, maybe this week he'll pull a Ryan Fitzpatrick and come out with the big open shirt with his chest hair just on full display. That's really all Mahomes is missing now. Is he's got to, start to get that gravitas about him. He's got to be like, look here, this is my chest hair on national TV.
Yeah, it's. I've been pleasantly surprised that they're doing it. We're 2 weeks into the season, so there's a lot of season left. But I've been happy that it went as well as it did.
All right. Well, so speaking of things not going as well as it should, it sounds like Windows patch broke some workflows, maybe something.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of months for patches. So as you all know, I maintain several pages on patches for SharePoint. So toddclinton.com/SP2010 builds, SP2013 builds, SP2016 builds, things like that. And that is for a couple of things. So it is for you to be able to go into central admin or whatever and say, I've got this random series of numbers that tells me which build of SharePoint that I have. How does that equate to anything that a human can understand? Go to Todd's page, Control F. Oh, hey, it's the April 2018 patch. That means there's new ones. So that was kind of the first reason that I put that page up.
Right.
But then Microsoft started putting out some patches for SharePoint that broke SharePoint. then as folks would come, they'd be like, well, I see that I'm 3 patches behind. Should I install the August patch? I don't know. So then I added a, regressions and notes page for the patches so that I could give people some guidance on that. So now it's gotten, and this is not anything particularly new, but it hit hard the last couple of weeks. We've got a couple of Windows patches that are breaking SharePoint. And so now I'm not entirely sure how to catalog those. So right now, for the workflow patch, even though it is a Windows patch and it is a .NET patch, I've put it in the month of the SharePoint patches with the assumption that people go out and workflows quit working in SharePoint, so they're immediately like, it's a SharePoint patch, and they go to that month of SharePoint patch expecting to find out that the August patch for SharePoint 2013 broke workflows, but instead I've got a thing in there that says this .NET patch broke it. Here's the remediation for it. So I guess I'm looking for some feedback from folks on that. How should I handle that? Because I just don't know how to handle the Windows patches, because there's no way I'm going to be able to catalog all the Windows patches themselves. But that's one of them. So what are your thoughts on how I should do that?
No, I think you're doing it right. So putting, it's kind of like, I almost want you to go in and that table, like bold it in yellow, like, hey, this Windows patch broke some SharePointy stuff, see the regression, click on it and see the regression. But yeah, I totally agree. You should not get anywhere near listing all the .NET or Windows patches. It should only be very specific ones like this one and the one we had, a month ago that broke, what did that one, right? The one that broke all the app pools, right? We had that patch.
I did not add that one. That was before. There was just a bunch of them that kind of hit all at once. Yeah. I'm trying to find that workflow one here.
And I wonder if what this is, I think it's an email for me.
I never read those, by the way.
Yeah, clearly, since you blogged it like 30 seconds after I sent it to you. I'm like, I found this thing out. And Todd's like, wait a minute, I'm busy doing something. Oh, hey, did you see this thing that I did?
I was already on it. I'd seen it someplace else. I was just,
But yeah, so I think that's a great way for you to do it, is just to highlight those ones like, hey, this Windows patch came out, and just literally this is when that Windows patch came out, and it also caused havoc. And I wonder, is this maybe secretly signaling to us that Microsoft's changed some of their testing methodology, right? We've never had this problem before, and now we've had it 3 times. Well, not never, but
yeah, I would argue that it's been going on for a while. I mean, that was the gag for a long time. You never wanted to patch .NET because it would always break SharePoint. I mean, that was part of this.
I mean, we had the problem like in the whole 1.1 to 2 days back in like SharePoint 2003, or that was the end of 2003. But
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I feel like all of a sudden it's been like this rampant problem where I wonder if they've stopped testing these patches against on-prem SharePoint. They only test the patches against SharePoint Online, and we're getting sucker punched because of it. They'll never admit to it, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah, one of the other interesting things, so I've got the workflow one, and I've got that in the SharePoint 2016 and 2013 page for that month's SharePoint patches. Again, on the assumption that if something breaks, they're going to check to see if it was a SharePoint patch. But in reality, it was a Windows patch. But there's another one that breaks the UPS.
Yep.
That is also a Windows patch. And to your point, it apparently shows up if you put some of the Windows patches on for that month, but not all of them. So if you get like 2 out of 3, SharePoint works, but the UPS doesn't, you add the third one and then everything works.
Of course.
Yeah, and so to your point, that would be, out in the cloud, they would just blast all the patches on. They would have never seen that because they control all that. So I need to, so I think that's again, I'm looking for feedback. Hit me up on Twitter at Todd Clint. Some folks in the chat room are keying in, but I think I will just put it in the month. I will put it in the month of the SharePoint patch that the Windows patch came out. And then for the big ones like the workflow and maybe the UPS, I'll blog them as well, just to kind of get some exposure to it. But yeah, it has been hitting hard.
I do not miss on-prem.
Yeah. So it kind of related to all this. I saw this great post on Twitter, this great tweet from a guy named Hoff Matthews. And his tweet was, the closest you can get to knowing what it's like to be a ghost is listening to a podcast where the hosts are trying to remember a piece of trivia that you know. I just thought that was awesome. And so for this last thing, there's probably people shouting at their car radios right now. No, it's not this patch. It was this month. It was, but I just love that. It's you know the answer. You're trying to, it's like my grandma used to yell at the TV when she was watching her shows, her stories.
Oh, Murder, She Wrote, right?
Angela Lansbury, national treasure.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah, we were watching Chopped last night, or we weren't watching it. It was on when I came in the room, I should say. And Martha Stewart was on there, and I'm like, I think that's her, but she kind of looked a little not Martha Stewart anymore. I don't know.
There was, I don't know if you watch them much anymore. Comedy Central has some roasts, and there was a roast of Bruce Willis, I think. Anyway, Martha Stewart was on one of those roasts, and she had some good writers. She was laying down some smack. She was hanging with the best of them, and I appreciate it. I like to see that.
Yeah, Jeff, I went out of my way not to make a prison joke, but Jeff Hicks from the chat room, so Shane didn't do this. Jeff Hicks did this. He said, "Prison will harden you," and that's absolutely what she looks like. Because she spent too much time in prison.
And she's hanging out with Snoop Dogg these days.
Well, that's medical use these days, though.
So. Yeah, that's completely medicinal. I no judge me, absolutely.
Glaucoma, right? Is that
my shoulder? Oh, I showed you that part of my shoulder.
Yeah, your Vietnam injuries.
I took it right in the shrapnel and And so that was, but I just love that thing. Twitter has the other one, and I don't have a link to it, but there was some great post on Twitter of a dog walking down the sidewalk, and it was someplace up north where it was cold because there was snow everywhere, and there's like a shovel thing, and a dog walking down the sidewalk, and there was a bear, and not a bear cub, and not a full-grown bear. The best I can describe it is a teenage bear. You know, your teenage times when you're just trying to figure out life and where you stand. So anyway, this dog is walking away, and this bear is trying to get this dog's attention, try to be all mean, like, I'm a bear, grr, grr. And this dog is just completely ignoring it. So the bear keeps and he kind of nips at the dog's tail. And as soon as he does that, the dog turns around and gives the bear the stink eye. And the bear's like, oh, no. And the bear runs off. And I'm like, that dog, talk about gravitas. That dog's got it in spades. Holy cow. So Twitter delivers. I love Twitter.
Well, you know the dog was thinking kids these days the whole time. Right?
Exactly.
Just get off my sidewalk.
Junior. Dang it, Junior. Yeah, it was just, the dog was so clearly peeved and annoyed at this bear. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, and so speaking of kids these days and messing up kids, you know, so I make a lot of these kids these days remarks, you know, and I've already talked to the boys about how dumb, you know, they're going to become in high school, right? Because all boys become stupid.
Oh, yeah, all teenagers, yeah. I had the same talks with my girls.
And so the other day we're riding in the car and Grant starts talking about kids these days. And he's like, yeah, stupid teenagers. They're just why are teenagers so dumb? And I'm like,
and he's all, what, 9 years old?
This down, but he's 9. I want to have this conversation, but I can't. I got to stop it. But it was just so funny. I'm like, yeah, my old man tendencies have already been pushed down to the next generation.
Your 9-year-old's already complaining about kids these days. That's awesome.
Get off my lawn. All right, what are we supposed to be talking about?
Well done, yeah. So that's just kind of a shout out to all you people who are screaming at your computers or whatever you're listening to this podcast, trying to correct us. Hit us up, let us know where we're wrong. We'll own up to it. But thanks to Hoff Matthews for that good one. Yeah. So I've had a busy week. I've been at a customer site doing some pretty deep end stuff with PowerShell and migration and compliance and all that, and just been picking up a bunch of things. And this will be a blog post at some point. But I wanted to talk about it now because it's something that you and I fought a bunch, and I talked to some other people about. And there's an obvious solution, but it's just not well known enough. So you and I are big fans of the Patterns and Practices PowerShell, the PnP PowerShell. Great stuff. And it's great for SharePoint Online. It's completely necessary for SharePoint Online, but you can also use it with on-prem. One of the problems that it has, though, is it's not going against the object model directly like you and I have been doing for the past 10 years with PowerShell and SharePoint. And it's just a little different experience. One of the differences is when you get an object back from the web, so an SPO web, an SPO site, or PnP site, PnP web, whatever, you can get all the members, you can see what they are, but not all of the members are actually pulled down because it's coming across the wire and they're trying to be efficient and all that. Over the last week, I've been writing some PowerShell to do things and pull values back, and I will see that the object that I'm looking at has the value, the property that I want, but it's not actually pulled back, and I get this nasty gram that says the object hasn't been initialized and blah, 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 and that's been very challenging. One of the objects that I was doing that with was a PnP list, but get PnP list has a parameter includes, and you can spell out the members that you want. So if the one that you want's not in there, you can add it, and then it will force that one to be pulled down. That's great. And there's a whole slug of the get commandlets that have that. Yesterday, I was doing it with content types. I was pulling some content types down, trying to figure out things about the content types. the property that I wanted. There it is. But there's no includes parameter. I'm like, what? And I talked to you, and get PnP list item has a queries string where you can put a query in. That was one way to pull stuff down, but this one didn't have a query parameter either. And I'm like, man, I got to be missing something. Like, this is so close. And so I talked to some folks, and sure enough, there is a commandlet that handles this. Get PnP property. Yeah, so this is one of those things where the angels, when I found out about this. So the way this works is when you're doing stuff with PnP PowerShell. So I would go out and get PnP content type. So you get PnP content type, whatever, you get a variable that is the object of that content type. And then you say get PnP property, that variable, and the property that you want, or properties. You can list a bunch of them off. And it will force it to go out and pull those properties down. And then when you query that variable, they'll be instantiated there. And that was it. That fixed everything. It was done. It gets a little trickier if you have a collection of objects. So basically what I want to do is I want to loop through all the content types in a site and then check for a specific value. So then I had to do for each. So I had to do, $CTS, pipe it through, whatever, and work it through every one of them, every instance of that object. But as soon as I did that, everything was opened up. So that was great. And I want to give a shout out to Paul Hunt. He was the guy that helped me out with that.
Yeah, the PnP stuff, God bless its soul, it is awesome and amazing. It's almost as amazing as Pat Mahomes. But
almost.
But there are quirks with working with it sometimes like this, and you can't give up, right? You can't be like, oh, this stuff sucks, and run away from it screaming. You just got to kind of play through it, because someone else has probably had this. They've probably coded a whole other commandlet to do it. You just have to embrace it. The same when sometimes you have to go down that dark rabbit hole of writing your own CSOM, right? It's all there. It's ugly. It's all there.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say, so the PnP commandlets are all community driven. Microsoft owns it, Microsoft guides it, but it's the community that does the heavy lifting. I was having this discussion with Paul about how to do this and everything, and we got it all solved. Case closed, right? Paul's like, use get PnP property, and I'm like, hey, this is the thing I'm working. Perfect, Paul. Thanks. Case closed. But then Michael Svensson, who's one of the guys who contributes to the PnP, he's like, hey, we love suggestions. Like, if we're missing something, if we need to add includes to a commandlet, or if we need to do whatever, man, go out there and let us know. We would love to help. And I'm like, man, that's like above and beyond. Like, I've got a problem. I've got a completely reasonable solution. Nobody needs to go to any extra work. And then those guys come back and they're like, hey, sorry about that. We just want to make it better. Let us know how we can make it help. And I'm like, these guys are great. I love these guys.
Yeah, no, it's you find people with the right passion for building that type of stuff, and they do a great job. They like you said, customer service. They want to get it right. So Todd Quinn says, "Yay, PnP, boo, Pat Mahomes."
So yeah, I will hopefully blog this one and give some examples on how to work it. But this was just like I've hit this problem a bunch of times over the last few weeks and found little entrance ways but this was just poof. This is the solution, and it's all done. It's been very happy.
Right. Things that don't have a happy ending yet.
Yes.
So as you guys have probably, if you've ever listened to the show, know that one of the things that Todd and I fight with on a pretty much a daily or weekly basis when we do the show is our dear friend XSplit versus Skype.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a really bad scare this morning because I don't know if you guys realize this, but when Skype is ready to update, when Skype Desktop is ready to update, it's going to do it. You don't get a say. You're not participating in it. It'll reboot your computer. It shaves your cat, and then it installs a new version.
Mm-hmm.
And then poor Snoopy, he doesn't look very good shaved. So.
No, they do a horrible job shaving cats.
So we had the scare this morning because Todd's machine, right? My machine had not been able to host the show for a long time because I had gotten Skype 8. But Todd still had Skype 7. But then Todd got an update forced on him this morning. But thankfully, he still somehow has Skype 7. So we were safe. And maybe we should pause there for a second. And Todd, we had this talk, right? Let's talk about all the versions of Skype that we have today. So people understand when we talk about 7, 8, 12, 24, 76. What are those things?
So Skype has many confusing versions. So first, let's say there's Skype for Business. That's a completely different thing. That's out of the realm of this conversation.
And it has no drama associated with Skype for Business. Happy, hunky-dory, love it.
Yeah, well, yes, and in the context of XSplit, it's no drama because it just flat out never worked. Yep. It has never worked. It will never work. It's completely not a solution. So no drama there whatsoever. So for Skype, the consumer client, or Skype for pleasure, as we'll also refer to it. For many years, there was Skype, the client, and that was a desktop app because that's all that we had. And that worked fine with XSplit. And the way that works is whoever's hosting the podcast, in this case it's Shane, has one video input in XSplit that is his webcam, and then one video input that is just Skype. And you just tell XSplit, go to Skype. If there's a video call going, it pulls that in. Everything's happy. That's what we've been doing for years. That is the desktop application. That's been working for a while. And then Microsoft said, hey, we're getting rid of the desktop app with Skype. We're going to make it all a modern app or a Metro app or whatever they call it now. And those versions started at like 12, I think is the first one of those that came out. And that it's a completely different interface, a completely different program. You can't have the child windows like you can in regular Skype. And it flat out doesn't work with XSplit. XSplit can't see it. It can't do whatever. But you can have them installed side by side. So that when you go to your start button in Windows 10 and type Skype, you can see Skype for Business, Skype, another Skype, whereas one is the desktop app and one is the modern app. Then to make things even more confusing, the Skype desktop app updated itself to 8 dot whatever, and then it doesn't work with XSplit either. So Skype for Business doesn't work. Skype for Pleasure Modern doesn't work. And Skype for Pleasure Desktop 8.0 and above doesn't work. But if you have 7 something, then it does work. And the problem is Microsoft keeps wanting you to uninstall the desktop app and only do the modern app, and they keep forcing upgrades and things like that. And so we've been fighting this for months. And I thought this morning we were bad because one of mine updated itself. But then we found a legacy installer that gets 7. So we're good for a while.
Yeah. The good news is I opened a support ticket with our friends at XSplit this morning, and they said they are aware of this new drama around Skype for Pleasure Desktop 8 and above, and they are actively working on it. What was even kinder of them, though, was they said, here's a download pool of Skype 7. They have it on their own Dropbox. Probably not legal software distribution, but
I'm not a lawyer. I did watch Legally Blonde this weekend. I feel like I have a little bit. I can talk about the mens rea and all that.
Pretty in pink for you. Nice.
Yeah. A couple of questions in the chat room. Stacy saying that it sounds like XSplit not keeping up. Yeah, and honestly, XSplit's main focus is not what we're doing. So I think that knowledge base thing that they sent you to, I think that's been out there for a while, months, maybe a year. And so I'm not optimistic that they're going to put a lot of effort in trying to fix this. Brett is saying, have we ever considered OBS? We have considered OBS. We played with it a year or two ago and then Lori's talking about Hangouts. So we did Hangouts. Hangouts didn't work very well. So then we were looking for another option. We were weighing OBS against XSplit and went with XSplit. I can't remember why. Maybe OBS requires another look. Maybe we will do that.
Maybe OBS didn't have the Skype plugin the same way.
Yeah. Kyle is asking about Hangout or Teams. So Hangouts we've tried. The thing with Hangouts is you couldn't get like the split screen video and you couldn't control whose video was working. Teams, maybe. So I've done some training with Teams over the last week, and you can do Teams chats and then you can do presentations as well. I think it would be tough, but maybe that's something we need to try. I don't know.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind, so you guys don't know this, but I'm hosting today. So the other option that XSplit has is a pure screen capture. So I said capture my whole desktop, and then I'm zoomed in to just Todd's ugly face on the app, right? We've learned how to crop, and we're pretty advanced XSplit users, it turns out. So it's working, right? We got this. So I'm hosting. We're not using the Skype plugin. We're just using the share my desktop type of version. This actually seems to tax my machine less, which is surprising. We were expecting it to tax my machine more. And so this might actually be workable. We've got some issues. We had a black bar. I think right now I'm streaming with my face in 2 spots because the black bar was so offensive to Lori.
I imagine your face is more offensive. She's too nice.
She never chimed in. And so there's some. I think we'll try this again next week. there's some logistical things I'm going to do. I need to kind of rejigger it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is going to be what we do for a while.
Yeah. So if something happens and we just don't start broadcasting, it's because whatever that was, Microsoft turned off the Skype 7 support or something, and we just couldn't do it. But we're close. But yeah, it's the trouble we go to. You guys are worth all this. This is how much we love you.
Yeah.
You know who else we love, Shane?
Who else do we love, Todd?
AppRiver. We love AppRiver. AppRiver they've been in the SharePoint ecosystem forever. I mean, I just can't think of a time when they weren't there. And they do, I'm at a loss for words. So can you tell the audience what AppRiver does?
Well, I mean, they do so much, right? That's why Todd's struggling.
Yes, there's all these things, yes.
I mean, really, what AppRiver does, though, is they are a reseller of Office 365 to resellers, right? So if you're running a consulting company or another provider and you want to offer and sell Office 365 to your customers, then what you do is you partner with AppRiver to resell through them. And so then you get to take advantage of their world-class support. You get to take advantage of their anti-phishing and their anti-spam. And one of the big things that I think we have not done a good job of talking about so far is also their security, right? So they have, we always talk about how good Microsoft security is, but it's kind of here. Those guys said, all right, that's a great platform, but we're really invested in. So they've added a whole bunch of security auditing and tools and capabilities on top of that. And so if you provide Office 365 to your customers via AppRiver, bammo, whammo, then you get to take advantage of all of their security tools and take it to another level.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with Microsoft. Their security stuff is beyond reproach. They're doing a great job, and they have to. I mean, there's just no way it would kill their business. But they are also a super big business, and they have a much wider view of what they need to add. Whereas AppRiver is a little smaller of a business, and you get more personal attention. So, a couple of their customers come to them and say, hey, we would like to get this specific security report, or it would be great if once we got this thing, somebody could build a button that you could click that fixed it. For Microsoft, they've got, a bunch of customers. It's just not worth the investment for them. For AppRiver, it is. And so you get some of these more catered things. So, and I've got the wrong link in our note. I think if you go to toddclint.com/AppRiver, I think is that the thing that bounces people? So do that. Go to toddclint.com/AppRiver. Tell them Todd and Shane sent you. Check out their stuff. I told them, when we started talking to them about sponsoring, I'm like, this is our crowd. This is our people. This is consultants. This is people that do this stuff. So let them know what you think.
Absolutely. All right. So speaking of different things, so I don't know if you guys know this, but I do a lot with Power Apps these days. Have you heard about that?
You've been uncharacteristically quiet about that. Is it so? And yeah, but I can see why, because Power Apps is kind of a fad. So I can see why you wouldn't want to, hitch your wagon to that horse and then.
Yeah. It's definitely been keeping me busy though, man. It's been kind of bonkers, and I'm really enjoying it. It's very interesting. Kind of like we did with the SharePoint 911 model, because we kind of have this open help desk where we'll help anyone. We'll answer easy questions. We'll answer hard questions.
Yep.
We have been exposed to literally hundreds of apps already, right? I mean, when there's only like thousands of apps in the whole world, and that's not true. But, I feel like we're really kind of out there ahead of like the number of things we've seen. And, yesterday I had a guy who was he's thinking about going to Power Apps, and he's like, Power Apps and Flow. And I said something like, Flow's the best at connecting to remote APIs. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I mean, like the best in the world? I'm like, no, I mean like in the best in this ecosystem. I'm like, I can't speak to the tools outside of this Office 365 ecosystem. He's like, well, what about, can you tell me some competitors? I'm like, well, all the competitors, and I listed off a couple. I'm like, but the only reason I know about any of these companies is because people have come to me and said, hey, we're using this product.
And it doesn't work.
Off of it, and we want to Power Apps. So I don't think it's a glowing recommendation, but yeah, I'm not afraid to tell you, here's the list of products that are in that space. And I was unaware, there's a lot of people who are doing very similar things to what Power Apps is doing. Just these like simple, build yourself an app with a kind of this click interface, and kind of interesting space.
Yeah. It's, the whole, and I know the buzzwords are annoying, but the whole citizen developer thing and all that's the spot. And something you and I have talked about is as the technology progresses, everybody moves up the stack. And folks like you and I, IT folks, 20 years ago, I was swapping out hard drives and power supplies that went bad. We've moved up the stack, and that's not the things that we do anymore. And this is another one of those where power users 20 years ago, like I remember being a power user 20 years ago and being the guy that knew you could make a form from a Word document and just blowing people's minds. They've moved up the stack, and now this whole citizen developer is developing applications inside of an IDE in the web, and that's where they're all going. And I think, yeah.
And one of the things I've found really neat about, people moving in that direction, and I don't know what we did to scratch this itch, but we've been getting a lot of hits from construction, manufacturing, those type of non-traditional IT companies.
Yeah.
But these guys, the light bulbs are coming on for some of them. They're like, hey, instead of paper timesheets, all these workers have got a mobile phone. Let's make them an app where they can put in their time, and that goes straight into their ERP system, and it's saving them, fortune. And we've talked about the other ones like the logging of the dump truck loads out of the mine, and so much, and I don't know if you guys remember, but a few years back when I first left the company that shall not be named, I tried to make this run at just doing business consulting. It turns out no one wanted to pay for it. But that was the big mantra. I was always trying to be like, hey, you're a technology company. It's whether you admit it or not.
Yeah, so, everybody's a technology company.
Yeah, and some of these construction companies that we're talking to are like, all right, we're all in. The sky's the limit. We're going to make everything an app. And it sounds silly, but then you're like, wait a minute. This is going to save them oodles and oodles of poodles.
Yeah, and I think another testament to that, and this is going to come off sounding more condescending than I mean it to be, but and maybe it's changed, but construction workers are not people that you normally think of as being real technical folks.
Yep.
Because it's just not a technical trade. And I think it's a testament to the technology that it can be as easy to use and as easy to design as that the everyman can use it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a nerd like you and I to use it anymore.
Yeah.
Just anybody can do it. And I think that is a huge, that was not the case, 20 years ago with access forms, for instance. I know I did some work with a construction company probably 20 years ago, and they had a bunch of technology. They were way ahead of the time for technology, and they were just using it for like estimating and job, like project tracking and things like that. Nothing to the thing they wanted to do more, but the technology just wasn't easy enough to use. And I think it's great that Power Apps is getting there, because everybody's got a phone, and if you don't have a phone, everybody's got a tablet, and if you don't have a tablet, they're a dime a dozen. I've got 6 of them on my desk. It's just anybody can use it.
Yeah. And Power Apps, right, one of the things that really beats up on these other tools that we've looked at is the controls, right? So, for example, back to, a lot of these construction guys, they're not technical people. They got big hands, right? The big manly men, unlike me. Right?
They have these hard parts on their hand. What are those called? Calluses?
I don't know.
I've never had
3 times a day.
Never had a callus on. It's just never happened. Yeah.
But so, we can make the buttons really big, right? So that big old, thumbprint can come down, and it's been really kind of really an interesting one. But then you take and we look at, so back to your citizen developer comment, one of the world's, maybe the world's largest car manufacturer, I don't know, one of those big ones. We've worked with some of their mechanics, like field mechanics. So they have an epidemic of a whole bunch of windows not rolling down on one of their SUVs. So these are the specialist guys that go out and look at those in the field to try and collect the data to get pushed back up to engineering. But one of those guys wrote his own app. He's like, why am I writing all this down on paper to then go back to my office to write it into Excel, to send this Excel to someone? And he wrote an app on his own. And I'm like, that's what gets me excited about Power Apps, is when some dude who, likes to use monkey wrenches, literally, is making his own app.
Yep, that's that is a good one. So I think you're at a good spot right now. It's a good technology to be in. Well, we're coming up on 45 minutes. Do you want to pick one of the last couple of topics,
or do you want to jump L, or is L? Should we stay away from L?
I'm ignoring L, but you can talk about it if you want to.
We'll skip it then. So the other thing I'll just throw out there real quick is, if you guys haven't embraced Azure DBaaS as a service, man, the more I have to use this, because almost every app I'm building these days is using that as the back end. It is just a fabulous platform. Go check it out. Even if I don't have a reason to, go build a database out there just to say that you've done it and you can connect to it. These are new life skills that are going to come in, especially if you think you're going to be in a citizen-y developer space at all. And one of the great things about it, this was a different customer call yesterday, But he, he's like, well, I don't know where I'm going to go in the long term. I'm like, well, you know what? I bet you $1 Azure SQL Database as a Service is your long-term solution for storing the data, regardless of where you end up building this app or how you're going to do your whole vision. So the sooner he can embrace and get his data out there, it's just going to live there forever. So I don't know, just embrace Azure.
Well, but Shane, database as a service is expensive. You can't afford it. It's just too expensive.
Yeah, $15 a month for a production database, $5.99 for a test database. It's pretty pricey.
Yeah, I bring that up because Shane and I did a Power App session at SP TechCon a couple weeks ago, and Shane did his whole fever pitch there, and he was all very excited. And somebody's like, it's too expensive. And he's like, no, it's really not. And she brings the page up, and there was a bunch of really expensive things on there, but then he had to find the other one. And yeah, it's worth your time. It's worth your investment.
Yeah, my friends in Tennessee said, yeah, that'll cost us $30,000. And I'm like, I tell you what, I'll do it for $15,000. Give me $15,000. So you have to. That's why we have to go play with these things so we can find that there's that $5 option out there, not the $30,000 option. And these are just like we tell you to learn AD, we tell you to learn PowerShell. I think at least understanding enough to get yourself a database in Azure AD is probably another good life skill.
Yeah, just to know that it's there. Understand that it's an option. All right, let's move on to the community corner. Again, if you are a community person, if you're doing SharePoint Saturdays or Office 365 Saturdays or whatever, give us a shout at Todd Clint, at Shane's Cows. We'll add you to the list. The only thing we have on the list right now is SharePoint Saturday New England, October 20th, which is a month from tomorrow, which means it was probably 2 weeks ago by the time I get this podcast out. That is in Burlington, Massachusetts. You can't beat New England in the fall. It's you got to go up there. Lots of good things going on up there. SharePoint Saturday, New England. If you are not, if you're not driving, if you're someplace stationary, go to spsnewengland.org and check that out. And we would love to see that be full. On the self-promotion bit, we've got a bunch going on. First off, a week from tomorrow, I believe, the folks at SysKit are doing a webinar with me, yours truly, moi, on how to prepare for SharePoint 2019. And I might mention their tools in there, but you can go out to toddclint.com/SysKit SP 2019 prepare. Boy, I couldn't have made that one tougher.
Wow.
That's the short URL for it. You don't want the long URL. You can so you can go to my blog. It's in there, or you can go to the SysKit page. I forget where it's at. It's at solutions.syskit.com. But sign up for that. It's a free webinar. We're going to be talking about what's coming up with SharePoint 2019, so the things you can do now before it actually hits the street. And I'd love to see you there. Love to chat.
All those nice things I said about SysKit, I've taken back. If they're going to sponsor you being on the air,
no, come on,
SysKit, you are dead to me.
Come on. They're good people. I've met them. Salt of the earth.
Yeah. More important is October 15th through the 18th, myself, Daniel Christian, and probably a whole bunch of other really cool people will be in Phoenix, Arizona, doing the Power Summit. So,
my goodness.
Yeah.
Power Summit. Sounds impressive.
Well, I mean, it's like Microsoft, right? Everything's got power in the name or point.
Active. Correct. Yeah.
But so Power Summit is this giant conference, it turns out, like 7,000 attendees. That's for a long time has really been focused in the dynamic space, because it turns out there's millions and millions of people that use Dynamics. Who knew? But now they've added a Flow and Power Apps and Power BI track, if you will, into the conference. And so they said, well, who are the best people in the universe to do it? And those guys wouldn't do it, so then they chose me.
I was going to say, those people were busy.
But it should be a lot of fun. One of the sad things for them is, so I'm doing some different sessions, and then they have this panel, and they're like, man, who can we get to MC it? Oh, yep. They got suckered into letting me MC it. So
they must be desperate. They must have made somebody mad.
That's all I could figure, because they got multiple. Yeah, I don't know. So I'll be there for a whole bunch of things. Lori now wants to go. So Lori, you can sign up. If you sign up before October 4th, you'll save $100, and then you can come and hang out with me.
Yeah, and if you want to sign up for that, you can go to powerugsummit.com, and that's where you can register for that. It's at the Phoenix Convention Center. You and I have been there. We went to the Project Server Conference there 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's apparently where you and I go to like check out new conferences we've never been to before.
Yep. Yes, and Ali says make sure that you power walk while you're at the Power Summit.
Absolutely. And yeah, and don't forget that my buddy Dan's going to do an all-day workshop before the summit. So check that out because Dan's kind of smart. He's good looking. He's smart. People like him more than they like Todd. So
that is not true. I asked my mom. She says that's not true at all.
Darn it. So then also I am going to finally grace myself and go to Branson, Missouri. I don't know if you guys know, but the world famous North American Collaboration Summit is held there.
Oh, they know. You were the last person to find out about it. Everybody knows about the Branson conference.
I don't even know. I mean, do I need to leave now? How do you even get to Branson?
That is one place that I can make fun of as being less well known than where I live.
Absolutely. But so out there, I'm going to do a all-day workshop on Power App, Flow, and probably SharePoint. I don't know. I'm gonna get on stage and talk for 8 hours. So you should come and do that. Hang out with me. Check out my session.
Yep. Unrelated completely, but bringing it back to the cord cutting on Netflix, there's a show called Ozark, which sort of takes place in that area. Great show. Finished up season 2 last week. Big fan.
Yeah, that's. Are you still watching West Wing? I probably should get us off this tangent.
We paused West Wing to finish up on Ozark. We finished up on Ozark. We jumped back into West Wing.
Yeah, we've been paused on West Wing for a while. It's very sad.
Where did you pause at? Maybe I'm catching up.
Like 220, season 2, episode 20-ish.
We're at like 211, 213, something like that.
There you go. All right, very important way to end the show.
Yes. If you haven't watched The West Wing, for goodness sakes, go do that right now.
Which
at least the first 3 seasons.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that reminds me, right, that DIY show we were talking about ahead of time, right? Our dear friend Vanilla Ice. Apparently his show is taking the rating sweeps with Vanilla Ice. I don't know.
I'm glad to see him having a second career. I was worried about him after that, one song. I was one of the few people, I think me and some buddies in high school rented Cool as Ice when it came out on VHS. It was horrible. That was the Vanilla Ice movie that was trying to capitalize on the one song that he had that was popular. I was worried about him, Rob. I was worried that he wasn't going to make it, but I'm glad to see he's been able to parlay that into a good career.
Yeah, so I did not rent that movie, so I do not know about the bad batch of Vanilla Ice that you had to live through.
It was it was not good, and but it made me tougher. It's that whole thing: if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Pain, just weakness leaving the body. All those adages.
Very proud. Yeah. All right, I think it's time to wrap this show up, Mr.
Get out of here. Thanks, everybody. Chat room will stick around for a bit. I'm pointing the chat room. We'll see you all next week. I think we're both going to be around. So if you have anything, again, at Todd Clint, todd@toddclint.com. Shane, tell the folks.
At Shane's Cows, or go check out my YouTube channel. I need some more views from people like you.
He doesn't, but just the same. But thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.